In terms of price action, I think we're behind though. Like we're just hovering around almost 100K right now, or 0.1 M. And I think we should have been here already. Like I think this year we should have been well into the mid 500 range, 500K range, if not 1 million. And for that delay, I would largely say it's a holdover from all of the fallout from all the fraudulent activities that have been undertaken by and large, the crypto ecosystem. So we're sort of being punished for what they've done. And this is the result, like Bitcoin price is muted. So there's this saying that Bitcoin is like a beach ball being held underwater. And I think that's all the more true right now. Like even this moment as we're speaking, it is being held underwater by these forces still. So once it starts to rise up, it'll start to go up really fast, and most people won't expect what's about to come. Bitcoin will replace the dollar, and it's going to happen very quickly. People aren't going to expect it, and everything just gets priced into sats or Bitcoin.
Samson Mow begins by framing Bitcoin's growth using a new perspective, the M notation. Instead of discussing Bitcoin in thousands or hundreds of thousands, Mow suggests that as Bitcoin surpasses $1 million per coin, it becomes more intuitive to refer to it in terms of millions. For example, $1 million would be denoted as 1M, making it easier to grasp Bitcoin's long-term trajectory as it moves toward valuations in the billions. This evolution in notation is a subtle yet powerful signal of Bitcoin's ascent as a global monetary standard. Mow introduces the concept of the Veblen Threshold, a point where Bitcoin's value starts to siphon significant market share from large asset classes such as gold and real estate. He estimates that this transformation begins in earnest when Bitcoin's price ranges between $400,000 and $600,000. At this stage, Bitcoin transitions from being a speculative asset to becoming the preferred store of value, overtaking traditional assets like gold in market capitalization.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
I think for Bitcoin, we're not yet primed for bigger numbers. And this is why I started promoting the M notation or million notation. Like some people call it the Mow notation, and some have called it like a Michael notation for Michael Saylor. But it's just the next logical step. So we're already talking about Bitcoin in terms of K, right? 1,000. It's not 100,000, it's 100K. So the logical extension is to go to M and then eventually, B for billion. But there is no really an upper bound for where Bitcoin will go. I believe we're going to cross this threshold. You can call it the Veblen threshold or some threshold whereby we start to demonetize other large pools of existing assets like gold, real estate, and whatnot. And then it just accelerates from there upwards. So I think that sweet spot somewhere in the 400 to 600K range. And that's when we really start to take gold market cap away from that and move it to Bitcoin. So it's really just framing Bitcoin in a way that people can understand that there is a lot of growth potential still, and to prepare them for $1 million Bitcoin and upwards, which I think some people can't see. They think, oh, well, it's grown so much. There's a diminishing return. That's a common one that people throw out there, but there is no such thing as diminishing returns when you're replacing an existing monetary system that is inferior. It just goes away and it dies. So it's not so much that I think we're going to be talking about multi-billion-dollar Bitcoin. If you priced it in terms of fiat, yes. But I think once you cross the few million mark, maybe in the 5 million range, I think that's when people stop accepting fiat currencies and they just accept sats. And that just becomes the new norm. So you'll never actually get to the point where a Bitcoin is worth $1 trillion. We're going to switch completely off the fiat standard and onto the Bitcoin standard completely by that point. And I think the other part is people have grown accustomed to these large numbers when talking about things like GDP and debt, right? It's always in the billions and trillions. But most people don't really realize, especially normal people, that these numbers are absolutely ridiculous. Like, what is $1 trillion? Do you have any physical concept of how much money that is and how much physical space that would take up if you had physical bills printed for a few $1 trillion, right? Like, it's just insane how much money that is. But it's normalized, like, okay, debt is up by $1 trillion this year. That's normal, right? So we just have to understand that Bitcoin will reprice everything. And yes, it will go up, but it's going to just be sats from now on. Like, we'll go back to more of a normal sounding price range for things. Like, you pay maybe $10 a coffee right now. That's kind of ridiculous, right? And you might be paying 10, 15 bucks for a hamburger, but your grandparents paid 15 cents for a hamburger. So once we go back to that once we go to that Bitcoin standard and we reprice to Satoshis, I think, people will be earning 15 sats an hour at minimum wage, if there's still such thing as minimum wages, but everything will sound more normal and you'll have normal numbers once again. I would say adoption is definitely ahead of schedule based on what I thought, 10 years ago, but price is definitely lagging. So what happens when there is this differential there is that one thing will catch very rapidly up with the other. And I don't think adoption is slowing. Therefore, price is going to accelerate in growth. So I've always maintained a view that Bitcoin is exponential in nature because adoption of technology is typically exponential. And money is even more foundational to civilization than basic things like a cell phone, right? So the adoption curve definitely should be approaching exponential. Now, exponential curves are very steep. So when you're predicting when it's going to happen, you think it's 5-10 years out, but because of that steepness of the curve, it's really difficult to say. Like, I think it's honestly going to be next year. At the most, the next year after that. So within 2 years, we'll start seeing that very steep exponential curve. And it's just suddenly is very sudden, and people will start to see it.
Mow underscores the profound societal implications of adopting a Bitcoin standard. He draws attention to the absurdity of today's normalized large numbers, such as trillions of dollars in debt, which have desensitized people to the scale of monetary mismanagement. By contrast, Bitcoin's fixed supply and transparent framework provide a foundation for economic stability and accountability. Mow acknowledges the challenges Bitcoin faces. He attributes the current price suppression to lingering fallout from fraudulent activities within the broader crypto ecosystem. These actions, which tarnished Bitcoin by association, have delayed its ascent. However, Mow likens Bitcoin to a beach ball held underwater. Its suppressed price only strengthens the eventual breakout. Once this suppression is lifted, Bitcoin's rise will be swift and unprecedented, catching many off guard.
Bitcoin will replace the dollar, and it's going to happen very quickly. People aren't going to expect it, and everything just gets priced into sats or Bitcoin. The other school of thought is, I guess, more the Saylor school of thought, which seems to believe in a coexistence. And some people that I've seen react to my posts online are very, very aggressively leaning towards this and denying the possibility that the dollar goes away. And it's hard to see these things happening, but I believe when fiat currencies fail, they just spectacularly fail. There is no real grace period because nobody wants it anymore at certain points, right? If I told you, Scott, I'll sell you 5,000 beaver pelts for dollars, would you want the beaver pelts if you don't need them? Would you take them as money? Probably not, right? So inferior monies just kind of disappear over time and stop being money, and they become either ornamental or collectibles or anything like that. So it reverts back to, a more proto money. And then the other part is, I guess, can the dollar fail? And I believe that is a part of this equation, because if you look at the debt right now, it's at 36 trillion, growing by $1 trillion a year. And that's going to accelerate because of the magic of compound interest. There's a school of thinking out there that the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix this by cutting spending. But you can cut all the spending you want, but that debt is still going to compound at a remarkably fast rate. And compounding is a wonder of the world. So it's good if you're compounding positively, but if you're compounding debt, it's pretty bad. So the question really is, can the US get out of this debt spiral? At the same time, the world is sort of geopolitically moving away from the dollar. And you have countries adopting Bitcoin as money at the same time. So the interplay of these three things is really going to be the determining factor of whether or not the dollar continues. And I'm, again, in the camp that it's not going to last. And it's just going to change the Bitcoin very rapidly. But, I could be wrong. Maybe Saylor is right. And there is this coexistence. And you can see that coexistence in his Bitcoin 24 model. And what it is he tapers off growth at some point. I forgot where, but maybe after the 2030s. And then it's just kind of Bitcoin growth just stabilizes. And I think the assumption there is that it just coexists with the dollar indefinitely. Well, I think it's a massive idea. And the abbreviations I picked were actually before Bitcoin and Anos Singularity. And then some people said you can also say it's after Satoshi. Both work, I think. But the reason I chose Anos Singularity is that it's like one Latin translation of a sovereign individual. And I think Satoshi, above all else, was a sovereign individual, beholden to no one, and no one can control him, manipulate him, and coerce him. And he gave us this gift of being capable of also being sovereign without having to give up give up our identities, right? So with the advent of Bitcoin, the reason why I think it's so significant is you can actually have your own money now versus the old system where there is an intermediary at all touch points. And even with metal-based monies like gold and silver, you have a minter of coins, and powers will centralize and control that process. Even when gold coins were prolific, at some point it became illegal to mint your own coins, right? There is the mint, and that is the group that gets to mint the coins. And of course, when you centralize power and control, they become corrupted and they start clipping and mixing with other stuff. So with Bitcoin, you get rid of all these deficiencies in every single other monetary system that has ever been created in humanity. And it's such a base transformation of civilization. I think it warrants this new year scheme or calendar schema, because it just resets everything.
Mow concludes by emphasizing the transformative power of Bitcoin. He introduces the concept of Anos Singularity, a proposed new era defined by Bitcoin's emergence as the global standard. This epoch, he explains, marks the first time in history where individuals can hold and transact money without reliance on intermediaries. Bitcoin's trustless and decentralized system eliminates the need for centralized minting, creating a monetary framework free from manipulation and corruption. In Mow's vision, Bitcoin represents a fundamental shift in civilization. It is not merely an asset or a technology, it is the foundation for a new economic and social order. While challenges remain, Mow is unwavering in his belief that Bitcoin's rise is inevitable and that the world is on the cusp of an era defined by unprecedented monetary freedom and sovereignty.
Please like and subscribe my channel.